There is a prayer to urge the Senate to amend the Procurement Act.
Hello and welcome to another episode of your parliamentary program from the National Assembly, the program that brings you happenings in the Senate and the House of Representatives during the week. I remain your regular host, Emmanuel Ehijine. The Senate in the week has reacted to the excessive bank charges by banks in the country. To this end, it has resolved to probe the Central Bank of Nigeria and all commercial banks in the country.
The motion was moved by Senator Magnus Abe, who called for an urgent need to investigate, regularize, and amend conflicting, vague, and unjust remedies which the Central Bank of Nigeria offers to victims of excess and arbitrary bank charges and illegal deductions by commercial banks. Senator Abe noted that over the years, commercial banks in Nigeria have indulged in sharp practices of overcharging customers arbitrarily and excessively, contrary to tariff stipulations, credit and monetary guidelines issued from time to time by the Central Bank of Nigeria.
When the bank takes a little money from you, you look at the amount that is involved and the trouble that you need to go through to fight for your right, you decide to leave it. They take a little money from Mohammed, take a little from Obinna, take a little from Toyin. At the end of the day, it becomes the billions that is in the vault of the banks. I believe that it is the responsibility of this Senate to speak on behalf of the millions of voiceless Nigerians that do not have the means to pursue their rights.
Other senators who also lent their voices to the debate on the motion called on the Senate to carry out a holistic investigation through a public hearing in a bid to eradicate the illegality by commercial banks.
These illegal hidden charges, illegal deductions, banks are making tens of billions of naira, hundreds of billions of naira illegally from innocent Nigerians. Another area that needs our focus, Mr. President, is the account of dead people. I want to believe deserve more than mere resolutions of the Senate that a deeper investigation be conducted on this matter to the advantage of the masses and populace of this country. We woke up one day and we heard that a circular came from CBN that if you draw anything above, we will draw anything above 500,000, you are supposed to pay penalty. Who gave that power? Where is that power derived from? And who is collecting the money and for what? I think the Senate has a responsibility to find out this issue. And I think let us not misunderstand the context from which this motion is being processed. The motion is talking about those who are exercising power they do not have under the law.
Senate President Bukola Saraki, who thanked the movers of the motion, said the Senate will get to the bottom of the matter in a bid to ensure the due process is followed to the letter.
The issue here is to get to the bottom of what the laws and guidelines are. I'm sure that they are in line with the law and they have the powers to make such pronouncements.
The lawmakers expressed worries that if the trend is allowed to continue unabated, Nigerians will be worse for it, while the commercial banks will continue to declare huge profits at the expense of innocent Nigerians.
Still on money matters, the Senate is raising concern over a new way in money trading known as the Bitcoin cryptocurrency. It has, however, warned Nigerians over the danger of being defrauded.
The Senate is concerned that the federal government has neither taken a decisive stand against this investment scheme nor expended resources in orientating Nigerians on the dangers of Bitcoin as a store of value, given how much the operators encourage Nigerians to invest in it. Though a quick search on the internet showed a report of the Central Bank advising against it. The Senate is also concerned that as Nigeria is recovering from recession, it will be devastating for our citizens to lose their hard-earned money on schemes they could easily have avoided had they been properly advised by the government.
Finally, from the Senate, Following the continuous killings in Benue State by the herdsmen, which necessitated the Senate giving the Inspector General of Police 14 days to end the crisis, it has summoned the IGP after the ultimatum elapsed.
The Senate, which had last 2 weeks directed the IG to, within 14 days, fish out, arrest and prosecute perpetrators of Benue killings, resolves that the ultimatum has expired on Tuesday and no arrest has since been made. Senate President Bukola Saraki, while making the pronouncement, said the police boss must appear before the Joint Committee on Thursday.
You can probably educate us on, if you look into it and come up sometime next week to tell us what is the exact situation. I'll be appreciated.
The Inspector General of Police has been summoned to explain why he refused to implement a resolution that compelled him to arrest perpetrators of the massacre in Benue. In a related development, the Senate also mandated its Committee on Police Affairs to invite the Inspector General of Police in a bid to find out what is being done about the political tension in Kano State and to ascertain why a sitting senator is unable to visit his constituency.
But I think at the same time, distinguished Senator, Chairman Police, I don't think at the same time it is right for a senator not to be able to visit his constituency. So, Chairman Police, I would like you to summon the IG, and they must provide security at a time adequate, because that is a responsibility to enable that Senator Kwankwaso is able to visit his constituency.
Senator Issa Misal, adding a point of order, drew the attention of the Senate to the tension in Kano State, calling on the Senate to condemn the political tension mounting in the state.
If you go through the social media yesterday to today, in the presence of State Assembly, in the presence of the state government, in the presence of even part of people from the National Assembly, if you see the kind of weapon that was used, people were parading more in thousands with weapons. And the only route to my constituency is through Kano. And Mr. President, if we don't talk about this issue, this is the beginning, because it took very hard, so many times for this issue of endeavor in Kano to be calmed.
The senators from Kano State cautioned against allowing politics of state to be brought into the chambers of the Senate.
In our own kind of politics, we have segments. We have women's segment, we have our traditional hunters, and they are very good components of our political structure. Whenever we're having campaign, they do come. He knows that himself, but he's now being used by some other people to blackmail us. It's blackmail, Mr. President, by stating what is not true, giving facts, giving story that is not true to this August Senate, Mr. President. We never fought anybody. Nobody fought. Nobody killed anyone. There was no quarrel even yesterday.
Mr. President, Kano has always been a volatile state in terms of, or not terms of killing people, but terms of the politics always tough. But let me explain clearly that since there has never been that crisis, the rally we had for the last 3 days, or last 1 week, there was never incidents of fight. There was never incidents. Even the one we had yesterday, whereby the crowd would march in my Central area, nobody was killed or even hurt. So please let's understand. Even the issue of the two governors, the Kwankwaso and Ganduje, they were very good friends. They were governor and deputy governor for years. And the party and the government is working together to see how we can reconcile the issue. So therefore, this matter is like a family matter, and we are working to resolve it.
The Kano commander of the Nigerian police had last week warned former Governor Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso against coming to the state on January 30 because of what they termed palpable fear and tension in the polity.
We shall be going on a short break and return with report from the House of Representatives. Following the continuous deteriorating health condition of the embattled former publicity secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Olisa Metu, who is presently undergoing trial on charges of money laundering at the Federal High Court in Abuja, The House of Representatives has called on the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice to intervene to enable him get medical treatment abroad. The House also in the week is set to investigate activities of Total E&P over its continuous neglect of host communities where it is presently operating from. The House of Representatives is calling on the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami to intervene on the plight of the embattled former Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Olisa Metu, who is presently facing corruption charges bordering on money laundering at the High Court in Abuja. The motion was sponsored by Honorable Chris Azubogu under matter of urgent public importance from the Anambra State, who urged that the condition of Olisa Metu has greatly deteriorated as evident during his appearance in the court on the request of the presiding judge.
The House further notes that the life of Chief Olisa Metu, who happens to be my constituent, is under grave danger, but presently he is facing trial on charges of money laundering. An offense, if convicted, does not prescribe death as the penalty. The House is concerned that Olisa Metu, whose health condition started deteriorating in the hands of EFCC, which led to his collapse in court some time ago, before he was rushed to the National Hospital. He had further concerned that Olisa Metu traveled to Nnewi some weeks back to attend to some family issues and was rushed to the Nnamdi Azikiwe Teaching Hospital to Nnewi on emergency due to complications on the same spinal cord injury.
Reacting to the motion, lawmakers were divided on their views concerning the constitutional implications of taking the motion and whether taking it would not amount to a breach or interference of court process.
Now, when we take on judicial powers, we are crossing the boundaries, Mr. Speaker. So even without the order, the standing orders of this, constitutionally, we are not supposed to do what this motion seeks to, especially as the matter is coming, whether bail has not been granted or whether indeed the court has not deemed it fit to allow Metu to go to. This is a matter that should be taken at a higher level, not come to Parliament.
This man that was brought to court on a stretcher, it's an eyesore, it's wrong. That we're not saying that they cannot do whatever they want to do. We're not questioning their powers or anything. We're practically begging them. They have a right to beg us because they cannot question our own powers. But we're not questioning, we're only begging, we're urging that please, we've seen what's happening, consider this person for medical treatment.
The Speaker at this point requested to know whose interests will be jeopardized if the motion is taken, at which point he called on Edward Pajok, a senior advocate of Nigeria, to advise the House.
The issue of bail is absolutely at the discretion of the judge. If he decides to grant bail, fine. If he doesn't, you cannot query it, you can only go and appeal. And if God helps you, it's the Supreme Court, you have to appeal to God. So, what I want us to determine is, since we can't tell the court what to do, are we in a position to urge the court, as the mover of the motion has sought to do?
Interpreting the standing rules of the House, and you ask which of the interests of the parties' interest would be prejudice. The Attorney General is an officer of the court. He took the matter to the court on behalf of the state. So in the interest of human life, he can be urged, because I do know that since he is for the state, he can urge the court that in the interest of, because we want the trial to continue, but the man must be alive. The accused person must be alive for the trial to continue.
The motion was, however, adopted with an amendment to urge the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice to wade into the matter and for the Federal High Court to allow Metu access to medical treatment overseas until he's fit to continue with the trial. In another development, the House of Representatives has called for investigation into the neglect of Total EP Nigeria Limited, formerly known as ELF Petroleum Nigeria Limited, established in Amenon Bono oil platform as far back as 1990 in a host community in Rivers State. The motion was presented at plenary by Honorable Anwaji Inobek Abiante from Rivers State. The lawmaker blamed the company for non-execution of cumulative development projects worth millions of naira in host community, despite making billions in these communities during its operations. He said the company has not maintained good relationship with the host community.
Mr. Speaker, the issues of the Willing Commission was as a result of agitations. The Ogoni cleanup was only possible through agitations. The development of the NDDC was through agitations. Mr. Speaker, we are tired of agitating for our own rights. We are only asking Total E&P to do us justice, to do what is right, to engage the people from the host communities, to award contracts to the people that are qualified from the host communities, to help us develop the host communities. It is an aberration, Mr. Speaker, that even the laws of the land are not respected by these oil companies. Mr. Speaker, it is embarrassing that the companies will keep taking what they have under the ground, but there is no concern about the well-being, the welfare of the people, not even the environment, Mr. Speaker.
The motion was adopted by unanimous voice votes, and the committees on local content and legislative compliance mandated to investigate activities of Total EP and report back in 6 weeks for further legislative action. The House of Representatives also in the week voted in favor of the removal of the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, over his poor handling of security matters in the country, particularly the Benue crisis. It also called for disciplinary action against the first public relations officer, Jimoh Moshood, for undermining the position of the Benue State Governor, Samuel Otom, while responding to issues surrounding the role of the police in the ongoing herdsmen-farmers clashes in Benue State. The House of Representatives on Wednesday at plenary called for the removal of the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, for lack of professionalism in performance of the police under his watch, through the partisan posture of the police on issues and its inability to curb the widespread crime and criminality which threatens the peace across the country. The motion was sponsored by Honorable Nuhu Dambaram from Kano State.
Concerned that some politicians are responsible for arming the thugs and sponsoring of fetish-related protection of the thugs as a way to intimidate or assassinate their political opponents. Worried that thuggery activity in Nigeria has created discord or disharmony among the people of the same community and led to the loss of many innocent lives, as well as well-meaning politicians in the country. Disturbed that the Nigerian police and other security agencies have turned blind eyes to this illegal act of terror.
Lawmakers also took turns to condemn the police for turning a blind eye to issues capable of causing serious crisis in the country, more so now that the elections in 2019 is close by.
To our shock, dangerous weapons were displayed everywhere. You don't even see any reasonable person in the rally. All you see are thugs everywhere with arms, Mr. Speaker, to kill Kano people by the governor of Kano. And the police are doing nothing about it. Mr. Speaker, I must say with all sincerity that we have now realized it is not the fault of the Commissioner of Police Kano. He is doing the bidding of his master, the IG of police. Mr. Speaker, this House has just raised a motion that has to do with the IG of police. I believe as a responsible House that represents the Nigerian people, we must see that something is done about this IG.
You recounted, Mr. Speaker, as in the past we have seen. But what we're having now, every day, look at the pages of the papers, is either one court order is not obeyed or one thing is not here. Our problem now is compounded.
But some lawmakers attacked the motion, saying that the information in it is mischievous, misleading, and misinforming.
Like he has mentioned clearly, Mr. Speaker, it is a problem that is caused by politicians across the political divide. And if you want to put a stop to this problem, you must have to invite stakeholders, politicians who are involved in the nitty-gritties of this crisis so that we can come to maybe a very logical conclusion. But a situation whereby the House will continue to interfere with the duties and responsibilities of Nigerian police while carrying out their constitutional responsibility to provide and protect the lives and property of Nigerians, this, I think, will not help this country.
What I want the House to advise us, or to form a committee for us to go back home and settle these issues. Kano issues have been coming to this Honorable House all the times. It is our duty for us to go back and settle. There is nobody among us, all the members that are representing Kanu, that are not in this issue of taking the talks. Nobody. There is nobody that will tell me that he doesn't have this kind of talks. If we are going to solve the problem, let us solve the problem.
Though lawmakers caution the use of foul language by some lawmakers, they also call for caution in addressing thuggery in the nation's polity, not only in Kano State, but by implications across the country. The House, therefore, following an amendment to the prayers of the motion, voted in majority for the removal of the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, for his lack of professionalism and for failure to address the spate of violence and loss of lives and properties, which is the primary responsibility of the police if the country's democracy must be protected. In a related development, lawmakers were visibly angry at the statement credited to the first public relations officer of Nigerian police, Moshood Jimoh, where he referred to the governor of Benue State, Samuel Otom, as a drowning man and advised he should resign over the ongoing Espen farmers crisis in his state. The motion was sponsored by Honorable Mark Billa from Benue State, where he condemned the partisan posture of the PPRO on local television station, which according to him represent the views of the entire police force and the IGP.
The IG is reported to have said before a Senate committee that the reason why there are killings in Benue is because of the law. But we are all aware that long before this law was enacted, the killings were going on without any respite from the security agencies. That in itself is another concern, because if the IG of police is questioning a constitutional law, then even this honorable house is at risk, because we are witnesses to the recent question of even decisions and laws that we pass in this house by other agencies of government. Now even the IG seems to be unwilling to enforce a law that has constitutionally been instituted by a House of Assembly of a state.
Lawmakers condemn in its entirety the partisan posture and the unprofessional conduct of the police as represented by the opinion of the first public relations officer.
If we fail to take proper steps, it will continue to happen. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, and indeed Nigerians, if I may ask, what is the position of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? He had a meeting with the people of Benue. What was the outcome of that meeting? We are aware of the outcome of that meeting. What did he say? What did he tell them? It's the same thing, Mr. Speaker. It's the body language of Mr. President that others will follow. Let us make bold to tell ourselves the truth. Because if we keep pampering these things, it will continue.
If the police PRO, we call a governor a drowning man, that is very, very unprofessional. He deserves not to be in the Nigerian police. He is not to be in the Nigerian police. He was trained by taxpayers' money, and he was trained to be professional. So even if politicians are talking, he is supposed to be the in-between. Somebody who will speak, and people will have confidence that I have a person in the Nigerian police who will protect me. But as it is today, Mr. Speaker, this conflict between the police and the governor of Benue State, what will be the resultant effect? The resultant effect is that the people of Benue State and all over Nigeria will continue to suffer. Because as usually said, when the elephants fight, it's the poor man. As we talk to the people are continuously being killed, not only in Benue State, but in other parts of the country.
The House in its reaction called for an unreserved apology and retraction of the statement by the first public relations officer, which should be enforced by the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris. The motion was unanimously adopted by the House when it was subjected to a vote by the Speaker. And finally on the program, the House has condemned the manipulation of administrative of justice system by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice over the lingering trial of Senate President Bukola Saraki. The House also adopted a motion for the inclusion of both Kaduna and Plateau states among states to be visited by the federal government newly inaugurated Presidential National Economic Council Working Group Subcommittee on states affected by Herdsmen attack. The House of Representatives on Thursday berated the manipulation of the justice system of the country by the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, through the obvious contradictions noticed in the resumed trial of the Senate President by the CCT and the corruption charges against its chairman, Danladi Umar, by the EFCC. This resolution followed a motion on urgent public importance entitled "Need to Ensure Sanity in the Administration of Justice System in the Fight Against Corruption in Nigeria" by the Attorney General of the Federation, sponsored by Honorable Yakubu Bade from Kaduna State during plenary.
This justice, as we see today, is undergoing trial in the Federal Court of Appeal. And the same person is now asked by the Attorney General to come and sit on a case which he has already made a determination on it. Mr. Speaker, I'm a layman, I'm not a learned person. But common sense, if a decision has been taken by a judge who agree whether it is negative or positive, and you later went to appeal, the chief law officer, who is represented by the Attorney General, will appeal this case in the Court of Appeal. And later, this case is brought back to the same person. Is the case being brought back to the same person to say he was wrong? Or are there any additional evidences to prove that the case was not well handled?
Lawmakers in their support to the motion condemned the actions of the AGF and the EFCC, saying it amounts to a political manipulation as both the CCT and the EFCC have become political tools by government.
There is no manifest justice here if a person that is charged himself with a crime will now be asked to also try another person who is charged with a crime. That is settled under the principle of natural justice in Nigerian law.
Mr. Speaker, one of the cardinal principles of law is that justice must be done and must be manifestly seen to be done. And in doing justice, justice is threefold. Justice to the accused person, justice to the complainant, and justice to the society at large. Mr. Speaker, in the circumstance, let us illustrate it very well. The Attorney General is the Chief Law Officer. He has taken, in collaboration with the EFCC, to court of the CCT chairman. It is the same office that has taken the Senate president before the other person he has accused of another crime. Now the question is, can the judge in this circumstance be free to administer justice, bearing in mind that the same person who is prosecuting him is asking him to convict another person? Let us be realistic.
The motion was adopted by the House, and its Committee on Judiciary was mandated to interact with the Attorney General of the Federation to ensure that sanity is brought back to the justice system in the country. In another development, as part of the states to be visited by the newly inaugurated Presidential National Economic Council Working Group Subcommittee inaugurated by the federal government to visit areas affected by herdsmen attacks, the House of Representatives has called for the inclusion of Plateau and Kaduna states. The motion, which came under matter of urgent public importance, was sponsored by Honorable Khatun from Kaduna State.
The visit of the committee set up by the federal government was a welcome development and received with joy by all, but it turned to sadness for the citizens of these two states when they were overlooked in this noble objective aimed at bringing the wanton killing and destruction of property to an end.
Supporting the motion, lawmakers argued that both states were equally affected by the marauding attacks of herdsmen and suffered some immeasurable damages too, like other states.
But when there's a security problem in one area, you give attention. In another area, you close your eyes. Mr. Speaker, it's unfair to our people. Now, let me say this, Mr. Speaker. The number of people killed in our place by herdsmen are 3 times higher than the one killed in Benue. But why is the Benue case different? Because they have a governor that is standing by his people. They have a governor that is ready to handle the bull by the horn. That's why they are succeeding. That's why the international community, even state governors, are visiting to sympathize with them. But in our own case, we don't have a voice.
The need, therefore, for the recovery that the committee going should, as part of its mandate, that this House would want to include is that, apart from engaging with the stakeholders, the issue of recovery of lands that are under occupation and the reconstruction of destroyed villages.
The motion was adopted by a majority voice vote by the House when it was put to vote by the Speaker, Yakubu Dogara. This is the size of our package for this episode. Join us next week for another interesting package. I remain your host, Emmanuel Ehijine.
Those against say nay, there is having prayer too. Urge the Senate
in line with our rules and
to amend the Procurement Act